Welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Joey Bidner, and I am your guest host for today. So, Chris is away on vacation, and I figured I'd give him a little bit of a break. So, today you're here with me, and we are going to talk about assets today. So, we're going to go through the various types of assets as well as the strategy behind each one and how I like to use them. Also, going to dive into some of the fun hidden features in assets, as well as which assets you might want to stay away from. We're also going to go over a question that was submitted to the website. And before I get into all of that, I would like to mention our episode sponsor, Optio. So Optio is a ads management platform that gives you a hand in seeing things that happen in your account. So for example, one of the ways that I use Optio in my day-to-day is I really love its search term identification and classification feature. So when I go into any of my accounts, which I'll do daily or once a week even, it will pick some of the search terms that maybe are a little bit of outliers and say, hey, is this something that maybe you want to add as a keyword or a negative? And what's interesting is it's really good, again, at picking out the outliers because sometimes when looking at your search terms, you can you get used to them, right? Because majority of them are all good. So I find after a little while, I'm like, yeah, all my search terms are good. But there are always some that are worth your attention that are maybe buried. And the search term identification process is quite good in Optio. And I always find a little something that makes me think like, I didn't think somebody would search like that. And then it's a quick couple button clicks to either turn it into a keyword or a negative. So that's just one fun little feature I like about Optio. So yeah, give it a try. They do have an extended 60-day free trial. All you have to do is when you go to the website, optio.com, hop into the chat area and mention that you heard about Optio from the podcast, and they make it really easy, and you'll get an extended 60-day free trial. All right, without further ado, let's hop into our question of the week. So first, I'm going to answer a question from Felix from Germany. So Felix says, selling a niche product with a higher price, so 800 to 2,000 euros in many different countries. I logically often face the problem of not enough conversions per campaign, especially in smaller countries. So I'm assuming Felix is creating a campaign for each country, which is smart. Let's say there are 8 to 12 conversions per month in one campaign. There are ways to get more purchase conversions in one campaign, combining some countries into one campaign, increase budget. Would you also consider going for a lower funnel step as a primary conversion, such as add to cart? Which bidding strategy would you try first, when there are actually not enough conversions in a month to start for a smart bidding strategy? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts about this. Okay, so a few things to start with here. So to be honest, I find 8 to 12 conversions often is enough to start with smart bidding. I don't necessarily, and Google even reduced what they said their thresholds were, where it used to be, you need 30 conversions a month. They have lowered that to 15. And I have, you know, to be honest, even launched campaigns with less conversions than that. So 8 to 12 a month, I think you could try smart bidding, but you're going to want to strategically set your target return on ad spend goals, or your target CPAs. You're not going to want to start them really high, or if you're doing target return on ad spend, you're not going to want to set that goal too high right out of the gate. You're going to want to set it low and crawl it up, or vice versa with CPA, right? If you are doing CPA bidding, you're going to want to start your CPA high and then trickle it down. Um, to be honest, I would not go with creating an add to cart as a primary conversion just for the sake of creating more conversions to give the algorithm more juice to work with, because add to cart is not a sale. So it's going to be telling the system to go after something that is not, um, that is just not a sale. So it's going to give it false positives. And then also, if you are using smart bidding with target return ad spend, you'll have to get into the, setting what you think your add to cart is worth. So in order to do that, like if you were to do it, let's say, you'd have to say, okay, like on average, how many add to carts does it take for me to um, make a sale? Let's say it's 10. And on average, what is my average order value? If it's 1,000, you divide 10 by 1,000, 100. You make add to cart $100. But to be honest, I wouldn't go down that route. I never really um, make anything but a sale a primary conversion in ecom. You got to just stick with it. So if you're getting less than eight, let's say less than eight conversions, if you're getting, five conversions a month, yeah, that's a little bit thin for smart bidding. Just go with manual bidding. Manual bidding does a great job still for low converting campaigns. So my advice is manual bidding for less than eight conversions, smart bidding for 8 to 12, but start your ROAS goals low and increase them over time. So I hope that's helpful, Felix. If anybody else wants to submit a question, feel free to do so by going to the website, paidsearchpodcast.com, and sending Chris a question. All right, so now we can hop into assets. So if you're not aware what assets are, they're essentially an additional piece of either text, clickable link, an image, sometimes scrollable carousel that is added onto your ad on the search result. Okay. And it's usually a best practice to add as many as you can that make sense. And that's the important part that makes sense. You don't want to be adding assets for the sake of it. There are some strategies to how and when to use them to really benefit the searcher. And that's the important part. You don't want to just be layering on assets in hopes that it'll increase your quality score. Um, and then it can end up actually making the searcher's experience worse because of the mixed information. So it's important to really strategize how you use assets. So, all right. So first one that I love using are site links. So site links are essentially a clickable link that is that's under your descriptions. Okay, and you can usually see about 2 to 4 of them that sends somebody to a different page on your website. So unlike the headline, when somebody clicks it, they go to the URL that you associated to the ad. The site link will go to a different page. So I typically will pick my site links based off of the account structure because you do need individual pages for these that are available on your navigation. But I'll typically pick them based off my service offering, my various service offerings, or the different product collections or product types that I offer. And the reason is that site links can be really helpful to give the user an at a glance view of what you do, right? So for example, if you're a roofer, right? And if you have let's say you have a page for A-frame roofing, flat roofs, metal roofs, shingled roofs, and commercial roofing, right? How great is it to have an ad where, if somebody types in roofers near me, you've got your headline, you got your description, and then underneath that, you've got, that big, beautiful blue text that's clickable that says A-frame, flat roofs, metal roofs, shingle roofs, or commercial roofing, right? So the person, when they search that, they might not even click any of them, but they can just see, these guys do it all. Perfect, right? Um, so for the most part, for an account like roofing, you can set these at the account level, but you can also set site links at the campaign level. Now, the time that I would use it at the campaign level is if your business has separate verticals that require it, right? So, for example, if you are an online store that, let's say, sells furniture, it's one vertical, and you sell lighting, that's another vertical, right? You would likely have a campaign that is a campaign for furniture, where each of your ad groups would be various types of furniture. Then you have a campaign for your lighting, where each ad group would be for each type of lighting. I would want to have um, my furniture campaign to have site links for going to the various collection pages of my different types of furniture. So it would be, okay, I've got tables, I've got a site links for chairs, I've got a site links for cupboards, um, and again, going to the collection pages of those product types. And then for lights, I'd have a site link for sconce lights, a site link for chandeliers, linear lights. And that one, in that case, it makes sense to have them by campaign because it wouldn't necessarily make sense for if somebody's searching for the furnitures for them to necessarily see the lighting site links, right? Some cases it might, but for the most part, that kind of makes sense to organize by campaign. So that's the only case that I would split them that way. Um, but yeah, okay, moving on. So next we have image extensions. Now, image extensions are relatively new. They've only been around a couple years, and they're really sweet. It's basically a small image that gets added on kind of like to the side of your ad. And again, it's pretty small. So don't get too nerdy on what's in there. It's really meant to be an at a glance, scannable image that just gives somebody context, at a glance context. So, sometimes I hear oh, do we want to put our logo in there? Do we want to put text in there? No, this is meant to just be an at a glance view of what you do. So, what's cool with the image extensions is that you can set them like site links at the account level, campaign level, or even the ad group level. So let's use that roofing example. This would be really great for if you have a campaign for roofing, right? You'd probably have an ad group for A-frame, you'd have an ad group for flat roofs, an ad group for metal roofs, so on and so forth. You could have for your A-frame ad group, you could have image assets for showing A-frame houses, right? Flat roofs, you could have image assets for flat roof houses. Um, so on and so forth. Metal shingles, for that ad group, you could have those images. So, um, and what's even better is Google makes the image selection process very easy. So it used to be, I shouldn't say what it used to be. What we would assume is that it would just be like an upload process, right? Which you can do. If you have a folder of images, you can upload them. But it's not every day that your, client, let's say, gives you readily available images for you to upload. So what's great is that they have a website scan option. So when you go into the asset builder, when you go to add your image, you will see a tab at the top that says website. And you can input a URL there to scan. So what I would do is, let's say I'm in my A-frame ad group. Um, I would add the asset, and I would take the A-frame URL that the site has and put it in there, and it'll scan the page, and that page likely has A-frame houses on there. It'll scan that so you can use the A-frame images for the A-frame ad groups. Ad group. It's very easy, and it makes image assets a lot more accessible with that scanning option. So I love using that. Um, there is also the option to have, you will see dynamic images. So dynamic images is basically Google will scan your website for you and place images where it chooses. Now, this can be, it's not always great because it won't keep your product services clean in the sense where it's not necessarily going to just take those, A-frame homes and apply that to the A-frame ad group and so on and so forth. They can really mix them up. So sometimes you'll get, if we use the example of the furniture and lighting, again, you could have a light image next to a furniture ad, which is what you don't want. So I typically don't use the dynamic image option. I just direct upload or the website scanning option. Okay, moving on to callout extensions. So callout extensions are pretty simple. This is basically just a little bit of extra text that's designed to mention some standout attributes of the business. So you only have about 25 characters, which is short, and it's meant to, again, just be short and sweet standout attributes. So you use this for stuff like open 24 hours or price matching available, free shipping, right? It's very short, it's non-clickable, and it is formatted in your description area. So it's not even all that readable. Not to say that it's not useful to do, but I still definitely use them, but it's not like site links where it's like big blue and bold. It's quite subtle, but still worth putting in for those small features of your business attributes. So, okay, moving on to structured snippets. So structured snippets are kind of similar to callout in the sense where the formatting is just text in your description, but you get to mention specific um, product catalogs or um, verticals of your business. It's basically a place for you to, list your brands, mention the styles you offer or the types and models of your service products you offer or services that you offer. So, and again, these are non-clickable. They don't give a URL option to associate to it, so it's just text where you can list, yeah, you can list that stuff, and it's nice to see if you're in an industry that again has brand recognition. If you're a reseller of, let's say you sell shoes, this is where you'd list, okay, we've got Nike, we've got Adidas, we've got New Balance. Or you could also use this, again, I'll use the roofing example. You could choose styles, and you can say we have A-frame roofs, flat roofs, metal shingles, commercial roofing. And in the selector, before you add in your text, it asks you, what is it you're mentioning? Are you mentioning brands? Are you mentioning styles? Are you mentioning models? So it gives you that kind of that tiered approach where you can choose, you can visually choose, how it's going to be displayed. Um, so yeah, that one's pretty straightforward. Again, similar to callout, it's the text is formatted the same or very similar to the description. So I wouldn't say it stands out all that much, but it's nice to add. So moving to price though, price assets, these ones really stand out. The price asset shows as a carousel underneath your ad where similar to the structured snippet, you get to choose what type of thing you're talking about, whether it be brands, product categories, or service tiers. Okay. And then you get to put a headline, 25 characters, and you get to put a price. And you can even choose the qualifier. So is this um, up to, let's say, $250 from $250, or you can put an average. And then it gives you an option for a description and a final URL. So this one's really cool where let's use the context of brands. If you've got Nike shoes, you could say we offer Nike shoes priced between um, X dollars, right? Up to $250. And then you could send people to the Nike collections page, then the Adidas collection page. And if you choose brands, each brand will have its own tile. For the roofers, you could have, you could choose service categories, right? And then you could have a tile for A-frame roofs, flat roofs, metal roofs, shingle roofs with an average price between them. So again, it gives you that holistic at a glance view, but then also the functionality to click into it for the searcher to deep dive into whatever asset you put there. So yeah, I love price extensions. And again, this is available at the account level, campaign level, and ad group level. And I will say the theory of when to pick them applies similar to what we mentioned about site links, and image assets. Base it off of the granularity of your verticals. Okay. So moving on to headlines and descriptions. So these ones are new and they are, excuse me, my absolute favorite. I mentioned the headlines and descriptions asset in a previous episode where I mentioned it how it can be used for changing ad copy for sales. And that's pretty much exclusively what I use it for. Um, the case is you've got a sale coming up. Let's say you have a bunch of ad groups, a bunch of campaigns. To change the ad copy for each one of those is kind of a pain, right? So what you can do is you go to the headline asset and you choose you can write in whatever headline you want and have it apply to the campaign level or the account level. By what you can do is you can actually choose various campaigns, and then you can have your headline thrown into your responsive search ad. So I typically do this for if you have a sale that applies to everything, one asset will apply to my entire account to change that ad copy. I find this is huge. And again, the reason why I say it's campaign level, but you can choose various campaigns, is the functionality of this one's a bit different. Unlike site links, where you can choose account level, campaign level, this one only allows you to choose campaign level, but you can choose multiple campaigns. So I will typically choose all the campaigns that it applies to and write the headline, 25% off Labor Day sale. And then you can even choose to pin it if you want. If you want that headline to appear, every time in position two for all your ads, you can do that. And it's particularly great to have that functionality to choose which campaigns you offer because, let's say you've got a campaign for Canada and a campaign for US, and you have a Memorial Day sale. Memorial Day doesn't exist in Canada, right? That's a US holiday. So you'll only want to choose your US campaigns. So yeah, I absolutely love the headline attribute. Now, what's extra special about this is you can schedule it. So the other thing that's a pain in the butt when it comes to ad copy swapping for sales is it's one thing to launch it when the sale starts, but then when the sale's over, you got to change all the ad copy. So what you can do for this is you can schedule its start and end date. So then it will automatically turn off on all the campaigns you applied it to. So I typically will schedule this in advance and I'll pick the start date of the sale, pick the end date of the sale, and you don't have to worry about the scheduling. So, and again, there's a headline option and there's a description option. I'll typically do both for sales. Um, yeah, so moving on from that, I figure we'll talk about promotion asset. So promotion asset, similar to the headline, it is used for I typically use it for promotions. And this will appear actually underneath the ad in like its own little gray box, right? And this is additional asset placement for highlighting your promotion. Again, you can use it at the account level, campaign level, or ad group level. You get to choose what occasion it's for. So if it's for Mother's Day, Labor Day, New Year's, and that part will show in the ad. So you don't need to write Mother's Day sale. You'll choose Mother's Day. And then you get to choose what kind of discount you have. Is it a monetary discount? Is it a percentage discount? You get to choose your currency, and the headlines are short. This is the only kind of downside with this promotional discount. After you get to choose the promotional type, let's say it's Mother's Day, that part is fixed. You get to add in 20 characters. So it's just enough to really say what you know, a few features of the discount. Um, so when you choose, let's say, monetary discount, 15, let's say uh, we'll say percent discount, 15% off. That'll be another fixed area, right? So it'll say Mother's Day, that's fixed. Percent discount, that's fixed. And then your 20 characters can come after that. So you don't need to necessarily write, you know, uh, Mother's Day 20% off. Those two parts are fixed. And then you get to write just like account wide or conditions apply. So you don't get a lot of customization with how it's written, is what I'm getting at. You have two fixed pieces and then one 20 character line, and that's it. And then you get to choose a final URL, which can be different than your ad. So this could be if you have a specific sales page, um, you can send people to, but that's helpful as well. And lastly, you can schedule this also. So just like for the headlines and descriptions, I will typically schedule this ahead of time and put in the end date. So, okay, wrapping that one up. All right, so next we're going to talk about call assets. So call assets, similar to promotional assets, actually, they appear underneath the ad in like a kind of like a little box, and essentially it's your phone number that can be clicked on to make a call. That's pretty simple. You just put your phone number in there, and people can click it to call. Now, this does open up uh, the conversation, though, about call tracking, because since that click is essentially a conversion, you're going to want to count it as such. Now, there are a few ways to do it. Google does offer its own call tracking service, you could say, where you create a call tracking, what's called a click to call conversion action, and then you use that in your call extension. Now, what it will do though is every day it will swap the visible number to a forwarding number. Um, that so it when the phone number that's actually seen on the ad won't be your phone number, but it will forward to your number, but it's that trackable number is how the call tracking happens. So the downside with the Google call tracking is that number is like swapped daily, or I think even hourly. So if somebody were to save that number in their phone, it might not be the same number you have the next time they call you, it could be Bob's Pizza down the street. So typically, if you do want to do call tracking, if phone calls are um, major part of your business, I typically go with a third party call tracking software. That way you can have a fixed number. And then all you do is, put that fixed forwarding number that the call tracking service provider would give you, and you put it in as your call extension. So, yeah, maybe we'll talk about call tracking in another episode because it can be a little bit more complex. But I definitely use call tracking. Oh, sorry, I use the call extension uh, on my accounts when it applies. Now, one kind of cool feature with the call tracking, sorry, the call extension is you can schedule it. So, you know, for business that are open, uh they're not open all the time, right? You have operational hours. It might not make sense to have their phone number visible on the ad, right? Because you don't want people calling when they're not open. Now, that said, I love having this conversation because a lot of businesses think that they shouldn't have ads running when they're not open. And I don't agree with that. I think your ads should be running when people are searching, because just because you're not open doesn't mean that your client's not searching for you. People will often search when they're finished their day of work, like especially in the context of, well, we'll use the roofers, right? Yeah, roofing company might not pick up their phone outside of business hours, but the person searching, when they get off work, and they're sitting in bed thinking about their leaking roof, that's when they're searching for you. So you can still have your ads appear, but with the call extension, you can choose not to show the phone number outside of business hours, which is kind of cool. One other kind of cool feature is something called advanced bid adjustments and how they relate to phone calls. So advanced bid adjustments, it essentially allows you to create a bid adjustment on the call extension. Now you can find this in um, in the navigation, when you click on audience, keywords, and content, in that drop down, you will see near the bottom advanced bid adjustments. And then you'll see there's like a call. It just shows calls and you can add a bid adjustments there. So if phone calls are really important for your business, adding this bid adjustment basically just increases the chance of that call asset showing. Because again, for all of these assets, you don't get to control when they appear, right? They don't appear every time, but when you add a bid adjustment saying, okay, I'm willing to spend more on this asset to appear, you have that option. I don't use it very often. It would really just be in the cases where like they, really like phone calls are really important. Let's say it's like a tow truck company, where the immediacy is really important because most of the time people are still going to click into your ad before they call, right? But for some businesses, it's just about the immediacy of, oh, like I need this service now. Um, so they it really is just like first to the top that has the ease of access wins, right? So advanced bid adjustments is kind of sweet for that. And then lastly, two other assets that don't require much explanation, but just business logo, um, uh, business logo and name. You can put your business logo in there. You can put your name in there. Um, those are pretty straightforward. Okay, but the one asset type that I don't like, that I've never had success from, that I only get actually spam from, is the oh, why is I'm blanking on it right now, is the lead form. Sorry, the lead form uh asset. So essentially underneath your ad, you can have a little lead form. So it's like before they click into your ad, they can give their information to anyways, to be honest, I don't think there's many cases where somebody would fill in a lead form before like vetting a business. So I find it a bit strange because again, this is all before they click the ad, right? It's a lead form on the ad on google.com. I have tested it and just got a ton of spam. So the lead form asset is the one that I would say steer clear from. So that's it for me today. I hope this was helpful. Um, if you have any other, again, questions for Chris that you want answered, email him on paidsearchpodcast.com. I want to also mention again, don't forget to check out our sponsor, Optio. I can't recommend them enough. Another thing I will mention about Optio actually as well is their um, reports. Their reports are freaking awesome. I use their report function all the time, and they give you not only the ability to create these great at-a-glance reports, but they actually have this automated analysis portion that will give you some like highlighted things for you to mention. And I've actually had it catch things that I could like never have caught before. For example, I had a client that had so there's a part of the report that actually imports uh, Google Analytics data, and the report caught an anomaly of of traffic, like a huge spike of traffic as of this certain day. And it actually, in the report, identified this surge of traffic is coming from this one referral source. And it said, I'd recommend checking the referral source and likely blocking it. I was like, that one use case, like paid for the month for me. Like I was so grateful. So again, check out Optio, and if you'd like to get in touch with me, you could always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Joey Bidner, and I do Google Ads management as well as coaching and consulting. You can find me at joeybidner.com, and don't forget to also check out Chris, the master of all. He also does coaching and consulting at chrisshaper.com. Okay, see you next time. Thanks again.